Mr. Chairman.
I call Chris Hipkins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm very happy to take a call on the preliminary clauses of the Social Housing Reform, Flexible Purchasing and Remedial Matters Bill. Very inappropriately named bill it is, because what they should really call it is the Social Housing Reform Wholesale Privatisation Bill, because that is exactly what this bill is really about. Government abrogating its responsibilities when it comes to the provision of affordable, quality rental housing to those New Zealanders who are not in a position to buy their own home. That has been a long-held tradition in New Zealand, that the state will ensure that its citizens are adequately housed. From the time of the first Labour government, who built so many of the state houses that this national government are now content to hock off, we have had a tradition in New Zealand that the state will be an active player in the housing area so that families have a warm, dry roof over their heads. And this government are walking away from that principle. I think of the areas like Pomari and Trentham and Nainai, where we've seen houses under this national government boarded up and abandoned, only to then be demolished and that land handed over to the private developers. It's not just in my area that is happening, it is happening up and down the country. I've made it very clear from the beginning of that process that providing the ultimate number of social houses, that's affordable rental houses for people on low incomes, isn't decreased. I think it's good that there should be some redevelopment, that there should be some rebuilding. Some of those houses are past their use-by date and need to be replaced. I would not accommodate people in some of those. I don't think they are fit for families, and demolishing them and replacing them is good. But it shouldn't be at the expense of the overall number of affordable houses. Reconfiguring those neighbourhoods is a legitimate thing to do. But what's the practical reality we're seeing? In Pomari, there's a good redevelopment happening there. But most of those houses are privately owned. Where did those families go that the national government booted out? There were some social issues in Pomari caused by a very small number of people, I have to say. There are a large number of people in there who were good, law-abiding citizens just trying to make their way in the world, who got treated very harshly by Housing New Zealand and by the other government agencies involved in that. But the problems from Pomari haven't just gone away because the houses have been demolished. They've been relocated elsewhere. We're seeing problems emerging in other parts of the electorate, in other parts of the Hutt Valley, where some of the people who were causing the problems in the first place have simply relocated to. The problems didn't go away. So the government's busting up of the Pomari community in the way that it didn't deal with the issue and it didn't deal with the problem. And wholesale privatisation of the social housing market isn't going to make any of the problems go away. In fact, it is going to make some of those problems worse. The bill could easily be called the Social Housing Reform Increasing Intergenerational Inequality Bill, because the government seems to have given up on the notion that future generations of New Zealanders should have the same access to affordable housing to buy or to rent that previous generations have had. They're giving up on that notion altogether. First home buyers are being shut out, and their only solution to making giving first home buyers a bit of additional assistance is to allow them to cash up their retirement savings and more of their retirement savings to buy their first home. It could be called the Practical Reality Bypassing Bill, because they're now going to be ignoring advice from Housing New Zealand. But it's interesting, we could call it the Abrogation of Responsibility Bill, because despite the fact that we've now got 3 ministers in the government responsible for social housing, none of them seems to be willing to participate actively in the debate. I do have a technical question regarding Clause 2, and that is the superannuation provisions coming into effect, or basically being backdated from the 1st of April 2015. The question I've got is, does that mean that people who transferred from a non-KiwiSaver scheme into a KiwiSaver scheme prior to the 1st of April 2015 will not be eligible? Or does it mean that basically, providing they had done it by that point, that they would be covered by this provision in the bill? Because I think it would somewhat thwart the intention, given that most people in KiwiSaver would have joined up before the 1st of April 2015, it somewhat thwarts the intention of what they're trying to achieve.
Minister,
and I'm sure the Minister and the Chair will be able to answer this, it's a pretty simple, straightforward question, I would hope. It seems to me that the idea behind the backdating is that providing someone had done it by that point, then they should be eligible. And I think I certainly look forward to having that clarification.
Phil Twyford.